All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So here in this video, we are going to learn some effective techniques to studying for interviews. Okay, just as we studied for the Security Plus, just as we studied our notes, we did our quizzes, we did our labs, we did our due diligence, we need to make sure we apply that same pressure, that same effort and energy into preparing for interviews. Okay, the way that you are going to seal the deal, the way that you are going to get the offer letter that you're looking for is by effectively preparing for the interview. Okay, you cannot expect to show up to an interview and just be able to walk through it without any effective preparation. Okay, the same way we prepare for the exam, the same way you studied in the class, is essentially the same way we need to study for these interviews. Okay, these interviews are going to be crucial, and some of us are going to need more practice than others. So, studying well before the interview is going to be crucial for our success. Okay, so you all may have different techniques that you use to study for interviews. Feel free to keep doing that, right? I'm just here to show you different methods that have also worked for students just like you, students who don't have any experience, okay? Now, if before we can even try to prepare for an interview, we want to make sure that we have the job description. So here we're looking at a job description. This is a job description. It's no longer available. It's for a junior information security analyst. Okay, it's for a junior information security analyst. And take a look at this. All right, this is a very key resume skills here. If you look at this, this is matching based off of keywords that we have in our resume. Okay, if you're missing something here, right, something that you have experience with, for instance, I have AWS experience, but it's not being listed in my resume, or at least this key term, make sure you list that into your resume, right? Especially if you have experience with it. Please, most of you do have IDS experience if you were on the Cyber Thursdays with us and you built out your own AWS environment, you have cloud architecture experience. Okay, so make sure you look at these question marks and when you're applying to jobs and add these into your resumes before you apply. Please do that. Please, please, please. Okay, now back to studying for the interview. To study for an interview, one thing you're going to need to do for sure is to study your resume. Okay, you definitely need to study your resume. Meaning, you need to understand what you put on there. You need to be able to articulate every single bullet, every experience, every degree, every certificate. You need to be able to articulate everything. Because in a lot of interviews, the interviewer may just ask you questions on your resume, right? The reason they're going to ask you that is to assess whether or not you know what you put on your resume, right? They want to assess whether or not you've actually done these things. So please, please, please be prepared to speak on your resume. That's step one when it comes to studying for interviews. Study your resume first. Step two, we want to study the job description. And there's an effective way to do this. All right, so the way that we teach our students here, and you've heard this in class, is we want to look at the qualifications. Right here are the qualifications here. We want to come and look at the qualifications, and sometimes what you'll do, right? So this may be in the description, it may be in the qualifications, it may be under requirements, it may be under preferred. Companies usually have different titles for this. Here it's called what you will do, and there's another section for qualifications. So what we'd like to do is copy this, right? Let's copy all of this. And let's open it up in another document. Let's just open up a Word document. Now we have what we need to study and prepare for this interview. Now, how do we study and prepare for the interview using this stuff? Let me make this bold. So, one thing that we want to do is create short story points about each of these bullets. Short story points that illustrate how we have accomplished or how we have done whatever is being listed out in these bullets. So, for example, this says monitor security appliance and provide advanced detection and response service through security event analysis and review. Right? So if you've taken the Splunk course, for here we can say that we have, or I have effectively analyzed logs and events within SIM tools such as Splunk in order to respond to incidents. I have effectively analyzed logs and events within SIM tools such as Splunk in order to respond to incidents in a timely manner. Right? So this is just the basic, right, of how we have accomplished this first bullet. So now we would want to elaborate on this. Okay, I have effectively analyzed logs and events within SIM tools such as Splunk to respond to incidents in a timely manner. Okay, using Splunk's SPL to parse logs such as proxy logs or DNS logs to validate if incidents, alerts are true or false positives. Something I've done almost on a daily basis. Right? Or you don't even have to say almost on a daily basis. You can just say it's something I've done. Right? You've talked about what you've done to fulfill this first bullet, and you talked about how. Okay? And this is a short story point that we would study, right? Just in case, right? Because this is what the employer wants to, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for people who have performed these bullets. That's why they have it on the resume. Well, if you can highlight how you have done these bullets, whether they ask you these questions or not, it doesn't matter. If you can highlight how you have done these bullets with the tools you've used and how you've done it, you are going to position yourself to be a better candidate. Okay, you are going to position yourself to be a better candidate. All right, let's look at something else. Let's go down to qualifications. Must be able to work weekends. You can talk about how flexible you are, right? And how this is something that you've done before, being flexible within other organizations. Okay, let's see. Knowledge of network-based services and client-server applications. I am very familiar with client-to-server applications. For example, I've managed a web server I've managed a web server by keeping the services secure. I've managed a web server by keeping the server secure. This was done by creating certificates to bind them to the server's HTTP service in order to encrypt traffic coming to and leaving the server. This is an example of your knowledge of network-based services, right? Client-server applications, such as web servers. Or you could, such as web servers. This is your example of client-based applications. You could also talk about other client-server applications, such as vulnerability scanners, right? In addition, I am familiar with client-server applications in a variety of aspects, including vulnerability scanners, have have servers that we can conduct scans from. In addition, they may come with clients we can deploy throughout our organization that conduct scans on behalf of the server. These clients then report their findings to our vulnerability server. And then you want to even mention the type of vulnerability scanner you use. Okay, this is a straightforward process, you all, that you are going to try and do for as many bullets as possible. If it were me, I would do it for every bullet. I would try to come up with a short story for every bullet and study these. Does this require some work and time? Yes, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. Getting the offer letter you want is going to require work and time. Getting the offer letter you want is not just going to it's not just going to consist of you going to the interview and leaving. Right? You want to be prepared. Interviewers can tell when you are prepared. You want to have these short stories. This is going to be your weapon in your arsenal. Right? Whether they ask you these questions or not, you should deliver these. You didn't study them for no reason. You should deliver these. Let's say that there's something you don't know, right? Experience with the Python program. Well, it's best to not say you don't know, right? It's best to try to alter the question or alter your answer in a manner where you may not know, but there's something similar to it that you are familiar with. Or it wouldn't take you too long to learn it because you're passionate about learning new things, and if it's going to make you a better candidate, you have no problem doing that. So let's say you're not familiar with Python programming language. You could say, I am not a Python SME, which is a subject matter expert. However, I am very familiar with Bash scripting since it uses a lot of Linux commands, right? Most people are familiar with Bash scripts because it uses Linux commands. You can use Linux commands to create Bash scripts. It's just a line or a file of different Linux commands that you combine together. Right? There are other syntaxes inside of it that's more DevOps, development, scripting syntaxes, but in a nutshell, Linux or Bash scripting is a bunch of Linux commands. So if you're not familiar with Python, you can say, hey, I'm not familiar with Python. However, I have a lot of experience with Bash scripting since it uses a lot of Linux commands. I've created Bash scripts to automate some of my everyday processes. For instance, when it comes to testing my connectivity to our application servers, I created a Bash script to ping those servers instead of me having to type this out manually every morning. In a nutshell, right? I've said no, I don't have experience with Python program, but I've also told them what I do have experience with, right? Employers aren't always looking for people to hit all the check marks, okay? You're not always going to hit all the check marks. What they're looking for is people who are prepared. What they're looking for is people who understand that if they don't know something, that they don't have to lie about it, right? They're willing to learn it, right? They know something that's familiar, or they know how to find the answer, okay? But this all comes with preparation. You don't want to go to an interview without doing all of this, right? And as I mentioned, it's going to take work, but if you do this for every single bullet, you will not fail, okay? It's just going to take practice. Your first interview is not always going to be your best, Some people need a little bit more practice than others. But if you follow this process, it is tedious, I know, but it is worth it. If you follow this process for each and every interview, which you should, you will get the outcome you have worked for. Okay, you will get the outcome you have worked for. So please go over this video, use it a few times, make sure you become familiar with how to study for your interviews. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you want to do a mock interview, we can do mock interviews, but you will need to create your questions for the interview. You will need to create the questions for your mock interview and provide them to us. Okay, in other words, you need to go through the job description and assess what you think would be valid questions and then provide it to us. We may add more onto it as we always do, but you need to prepare for your mock interview, right? You need to prepare for your mock interview by going through this process and then creating questions that you believe will be asked based off of this process, based off of what the employer is looking for. Okay? So if you want to do a mock interview, please make sure, send us a message on Discord, let us know that's what you want to do. But please make sure you have this ready, right? If this isn't ready, you won't be able to do the mock interview. Okay, we'd love to schedule it so we can get you in. But if you don't have this basic information ready for it, we won't be able to conduct that. So please go over this video a few more times, have fun with it, study it. If in order for you to get what you're looking for, you have to put in the work. It is the only way you will get the outcome you have been working for. I will see you all some other time. Have a good one. Take care. Stay safe. And make sure you hold on to your loved ones and let them know that you love them. See you later.